to keep the power. Let's come back to the main subject. I'll give you a small example. There is one Talpades case during World War II. He was arrested under the Defence of India rules. We had that infamous MISA during emergency, Maintenance of Internal Security. You could be just picked up. That British judge, I forget his name, it's a reported judgment of Bombay High Court around 1941 or so. That British judge was appointed by the Queen he set aside the detention on the ground that action is nullified and there is no basis for his detention. And he used a fantastic phrase. He said that amidst the clash of arms, the laws of the land cannot be silent. Look at this judgment under a British regime and look at this judgment under so-called free India. So the moral quality. There was another British judge in Bombay in 1907 or there, I forget his Chief Justice's name. It's a matter of history of Bombay High Court. That because the governor interfered in the affairs of the High Court, he locked the High Court and went to England. Can you believe this? This is independence of judiciary. He said nothing doing. I am the master as to how to run the affairs. The governor has no role. Today, is there any governor? Is there any Chief Justice who could say that? Now, 2014 elections, the government wanted to have some say in the matter. Government is entitled to have a say. Not only from a constitutional point of view, because constitution is clear. Judges have made it complicated. Clearly says, President in consultation with. Therefore, initiative has to be with the government. There is no more. Effective consultation, yes. No doubt, no dispute about it. But to say that we alone will have the primacy, I think this is usurpation of judicial power. In the scheme of our constitution, we have judicial power of the state, we have executive power of the state, we have legislative power of the state. By what logic the appointment of judges can be characterized as a judicial power? Look at the constitutions of the other countries. The power to appoint judges is an executive power. The very plain meaning of executive power. A judicial power means there is a list between two parties which is required to be determined by judicial authority. Now where is the question of list? So therefore, from a purely legalistic point of view, it is the power of the government. That act was enacted, 99th amendment to the Constitution, National Judicial Appointment Commission. Challenge again the AOR Association. In 2016, Supreme Court struck down. Now look at the constitution of the bench. Consisted of only 5 judges. People don't know this. The earlier judgments are of 9 judges, where they said that independence of the judiciary is a basic structure because of Goraknath, 73. And to maintain judicial independence, the power to appoint judges must be with the poor. This is the short and long of that logic. So with the result, the five-judge bench was bound by larger bench judgment. Power must be with the judges, and independence of judiciary is part of basic structure. Therefore, they struck down the constitutional agenda. And also they act. And today we are back. Now for them, unfortunately, you have a political executive who is not that soft. He is testing their mettle. The present political power is testing the mettle of the judges. But the point is that the space in the balance of power structure, this tussle will go on. So this is, as I said at the beginning, this is mainly to put it in the language of calculus, it's a function of political forces. And we lawyers convert this calculus into propositions of law. But basically, it's a political question and it remains so. This is as far as appointment is concerned. Now let us quickly see, because the topic also says removal of judge. The removal of a judge through a very difficult process of impeachment. According to me, this itself ensures independence of judiciary. If at all you want a safeguard, once you are appointed, it's not that easy to remove you. You can stand up to the government and tell the government you are wrong. Has anybody seen a famous film known as Beckett? आप लोग फिल्म देखते हो कि नहीं? हाँ? This was a film which has lot of political significance to contemporary India. I saw it when I was in college. So आप लोग शायद you may be kids or not. The theme of that film is very interesting. The great actors Peter O'Toole and Richard Burton, the two giants of the Hollywood. You see, the King of England, the role played by Richard Burton, or is it Peter O'Toole? I forget now. One of them played the role of the king. Always had a fight with the church. The church had lot of property, they had lot of money, they had therefore lot of power. And the king and the church were always in the turf war. When the archbishop of the church died, this king thought, I will appoint my friend as an archbishop, so that he will do what I want him to do, I will have an absolute power. So he appointed his friend. And the moment he changed his robe and became the archbishop, he told the king, now my loyalty is to the church and not to you. It's part of English history. They go to war and the king kills him. Some stupid Hindi film was made on that, Namak Haram. But I tell you that Namak Haram is not even a pale reflection of that film, Beckett. You will get it on YouTube. Please see this film. The point, the moral of that film is that your loyalty to whom? Is your loyalty to the king who appointed you, or your loyalty is to the institution? That's a powerful message in that film. And he says, now you may be my appointing authority, but my loyalty is to the church. So if you have that moral strength, does it matter who appointed you? Your loyalty then should be the institution. And not then say that we have the diamond bright hope that such things will not happen in this country. So the whole talk about this independence of judiciary is something which is, at least I am not able to see. Now see how difficult it is to impeach. First of all, you need in Lok Sabha minimum 100 MPs to move a motion. In Rajya Sabha, 50. That motion then goes to the speaker. Then speaker decides whether that motion should be admitted or not. In case of Rajya Sabha, it goes to the chairman, that is the vice president, who decides to admit that motion or not. You know, in recent case, he did not admit the motion. If that motion is admitted, then an inquiry committee is constituted under that Judges Inquiry Committee 1968 Act. Then that committee holds investigation, holds an inquiry, prepares a report, finds guilty, not guilty, unfit, fit, submits a report to the Rajya Sabha or to the Lok Sabha as the case may be. Thereupon, the Rajya Sabha, if the motion was from Rajya Sabha, passes another resolution to impeach the judge, and such motion must be passed by a majority of the members of the House and 2/3 majority of the members present and voting. Kitna difficult task hai. Then that motion, if passed by Rajya Sabha, goes to Lok Sabha. There the same thing. Majority of the members of the House and 2/3 majority of members present and voting. Then it goes to the President as a by way of an address. Then President will decide whether the judge should be removed or not. Now this is a very troublesome, it's not easy therefore to impeach. What happened in V. Ramaswamy's case? The committee found him guilty of grave improprieties, almost bordering on misappropriation of money. But the Lok Sabha did not pass the resolution. Because Narasimha Rao said that I have to run this government if I pass a resolution. It's a fact. He said members from the South India will withdraw support, my government will collapse. So Ramaswamy was saved. But the question arises, in this context, three important questions arise, which remain unresolved. Number one, what is the extent of the power of the speaker or the chairman, that is vice president, to admit or not to admit the motion? This is the grey area. My personal view is that if the material placed before him makes out a prima facie case of misconduct or incapacity to work on any ground whatsoever, then he must admit the motion. At that stage, only a prima facie case. But once the motion is admitted and is voted and it goes to the committee, then the committee must record a finding, and that finding must be tested on the same parameters as beyond a shadow of doubt. The test which we apply in criminal matters. Then it comes back, if resolutions are passed by both houses, then at that what stage, what the president should, what is the extent of president's power? Does he act on aid and advice of the Council of Ministers? Can the Council of Ministers, then it will be a tussle between the executive and the legislature? Grey area. Suppose both houses pass, President also accepts, then can a judicial review lie before the Supreme Court? In that subcommittee on judicial accountability, that 91 judgment which came in the context of V. Ramaswamy, said that a limited judicial review is possible. See how judges are retaining the power. Even though this process has taken place, the judge is found guilty, yet the court says we still have the power to decide whether a case is made out. Now we must remember one thing, that in a matter like this, The Parliament sits as a court. It exercises the judicial power of the state. There are some rare exceptions. One is the breach of privilege. When the Parliament holds you up for breach of privilege, the Parliament is the sole and the exclusive judge of what is its privilege and on what material it can hold me guilty of breach of privilege and send me to jail. It performs the judicial function. It sits as a court. But this problem again has remained unresolved after, which is that UP case. I forget the name of that case. Now, the Parliament said even in that UP's case that we can examine this issue in the light of fundamental rights. The point is that in this power structure, the court is assuming, occupying more and more space than perhaps what the framers of the Constitution wanted to provide. This is a trend, this is a question which is a political question. The K.M. Joseph controversy will go on. Let's see what happens. Let's keep our fingers crossed. Thank you very much.
Any questions? इतनी इंटरेस्टिंग बातें यहाँ पर हुई है और मैनी इंटरेस्टिंग फैक्ट्स. सो एनी क्वेश्चन? कुछ नया सुना हमने, कुछ किसी के मन में हो? ओके, सो आई वुड जस्ट, यस सर. सो मे आई नो योर नेम फर्स्ट एंड देन यू कैन. सर खड़े हो जाइए. एंड इंस्टीट्यूशन? ओके.
Sir, we have witnessed like nepotism since the times of Indira Gandhi, and even the collegium system have actually drawn a lot of flags just because of nepotism in the appointment of judges. So, what is the alternative viable method in which we can apply for the appointment or for the removal of judges?
In all humility, I must say that I have no cut and dry solution. There are various ways by which you can make the judges accountable. One way is a public opinion. Unfortunately, nobody has asked the Supreme Court, how did you appoint a judge like Kannan, Justice Kannan? There is another judge against whom the inquiry is going on, Allahabad judge, for corruption. There was another judge in Delhi High Court whose draft orders were found in his friend's house. All kinds of things have happened. If you see that, if you can trace out that interview of Justice Venkatramaiah, given, taken by, what did I say? कुलदीप नायर. आप इसको ट्रेस आउट कीजिए. He has openly said 4 to 5 at that time, 4 to 5 judges from all 22 high courts are corrupt. He said not only that, he said the near relations and friends of the judges, certainly their practices goes up, they earn lots of money. He has said. This is a political reality. Why? Because there is something fundamentally flawed in the appointment of judges. Do we follow the American system where the President recommends to the Senate, and there is a Senate hearing which is telecast nationally, and every American citizen can see who is the new appointee, and the Senate members can ask him any question about his personal life, including what he was doing as a child, what he was doing in college, how many girlfriends he had. They can ask him any question, and it's a privilege, and it's examination on oath. And in America, the perjury law is very serious. Even the president can't get away. You know what happened to. Do we have that system? The whole difficulty today is that this collegium system has brought about is opaque, non-transparent. Nobody knows who is being considered. Nobody knows what is that IB report. Nobody knows what Government of India has written. And nobody knows why a particular person is chosen. It's an opaque system. Your first measure I would suggest is bring about transparency. Let people know who is going to be appointed. That itself will bring pressure. That if the man does not have good reputation, it will stink, and that stink will go right up to the appointing authority. But no system can be foolproof, because in human affairs there can't be perfection. But it's a question of experimenting. The present system has failed.
Yes, ma'am. May I know your name and institution?
I am Palak and I am from NLI. NLIU, National Law Institute, University, Bhopal.
Your question.
Sir, my question to you is, recently we have witnessed that Justice K.M. Joseph's elevation to the Supreme Court was obstructed, and the reports are that it was mainly obstructed because he had earlier quashed the President's rule in Uttarakhand. What is your take on this particular idea?
Now, let me tell you what I feel a little later. The attempt of the government has always been to have representation to all the states. Now, in Kerala, as far as Kerala is concerned, today we already have one judge. Kerala is a relatively small state. Now to have another judge of Kerala, which might do injustice to several other bigger courts, bigger states, that's one aspect of the matter. Second, seniority is low down. Now, as far as this aspect is concerned, none of these judgments have laid down any clear-cut criteria. When it comes to Supreme Court, they say that senior-most judge should be appointed as the Chief Justice. Okay. So you apply seniority rule. But seniority rule is not applied at the time of elevation. Sometimes they are applied, sometimes they are not. Who has done it? The collegium. Now sometimes a meritorious judge is ignored. Who has done it? Collegium. Now collegium or the judgments, by keeping a loophole, have given a handle to the government. The point raised by the government is that Justice K.M. Joseph is relatively junior. Now the question arises whether seniority, juniority is a relevant factor. The three dissenting judges in Advocates on Record, that judgment, Justice Pandian, Justice Abadi, Justice Kuldeep Singh. They said seniority cannot be the criteria and you must see the merit. Now the question is, how do you judge a merit? But that's the dissenting opinion. It's not part of the majority. So the whole question of seniority and merit is kept in a limbo. Now therefore, your own judgment has created a situation where the government can play its own role, positive or negative. Obviously, therefore, anybody can draw an inference that K.M. Joseph is not being brought because he delivered a judgment against. But let us look at the other side. Justice Deepak Mishra delivered a judgment against the BJP in Arunachal matter. Now very same Deepak Mishra, today now the opposition parties are saying he is pro-government, he is pro-BJP. Now these are all political questions. Now therefore to say that it is tainted with Talabites is not being brought. These are all arguments which... And what is the answer? This is not for the first time that the governments have done it. Supersession of 3 judges in 1973, supersession of Justice Khanna in emergency. So this is a political game.
Okay, we are not taking further questions. I would just like to conclude what like Sir said and what I interpreted from it, that in India is said to be a very incredible state, and in this system of welfare state, right from the Austinian concept of the command of the sovereign, from the concept of Supreme Court and the freedom of judiciary in America, everything is constituted in our constitution in a quasi approach. And now it is for us to make a खिचड़ी out of it, or to make, कहते हैं ना मंथन करते हैं तो कुछ अच्छा निकलता है, अमृत निकलता है, तो make a अमृत out of it. It's on us, number one. Number two, क्या कहावत होती है कि एक क्लास में 3 बड़े नटोरियस बच्चे थे, तो उन पे कौन नज़र रखे, तीनों को बोल दिया एक दूसरे पे नज़र रखो. सेम सिचुएशन इज विद द 3 टायर्स ऑफ गवर्नमेंट टुडे, एग्जीक्यूटिव, जुडिशरी एंड लेजिस्लेटिव. तीनों एक दूसरे पे नज़र रख रहे हैं. प्रश्न आता है सुप्रीम कौन है? नाइदर ऑफ देम. जजमेंट्स गवाह हैं कि सुप्रीम इज कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. बट देन जैसे सर ने साफ बताया कि कैसे जुडिशरी कान घुमा के पकड़ रही है, तो हु इज द इंटरप्रेटर ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन? देन जुडिशरी. एंड कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन के इंटरप्रिटेशन की लिमिट्स क्या है? सो दीज आर द थिंग्स विच आर टू बी डिसाइडेड पॉलिटिकली and by the society's will and by our conscience. So we were very glad to have Sir today for his enlightening lecture for us, and if any mistake is there from our side preparation, so we are sorry for that, and thank you everyone for being the patient listeners. Thank you, sir.